My husband was like mortified when he came home from work one day and was like, did I see a post today where you told everyone how much debt we have? And I was like, yeah, you did. I did share that publicly. Everybody now knows. All of Palmerston North knows. And all of my followers now know. And he was like, you are a crazy woman.
Welcoming the amazing Courtney Manu. She is a business owner, budgeting expert, and life influencer who has inspired thousands of her followers to be better with money and live healthier lives.
Social media started for me back in 2017. I have my largest platform on Instagram. I started because I had had 2 children and I was sharing my weight loss journey. And so I lost like 25 kilos, started sharing, and I found that other people were inspired by that. I had really bad postnatal depression after our second child. It was quite gnarly and I didn't realise what was happening. And so that's why I did the weight loss journey. Fast forward to 2018 and we did a money management course, and that's where my following actually took off. I was sharing our financial journey and I was sharing the really nitty-gritty stuff.
This is the Fresh Money Podcast.
74% of Pacifica, 56% of Māori feel unconfident or unsure when making financial decisions. This podcast is all about opening up the conversation of money and to help everyone get better at it. So if you can please like and subscribe, it's our promise to interview more people who can help and inspire you to become better with money. Please note that this podcast does not constitute financial advice. If you are needing financial advice, please consult a professional or get in touch and we can point you in the right direction. Courtney, welcome to the Fresh Money Podcast. It's awesome to have you here. How are you?
Oh, no, I am Māori. It's really good to be here. I'm really excited. We've talked for so long online,
we have.
It's nice to finally meet you.
It's amazing.
Palmy people unite.
Yes. Well, thank you for coming to Otatahi Christchurch.
Thank you for having me.
We put on the beautiful weather for you as well.
Yeah, thanks.
I
left
left
rain. I left rain behind today. I'm very surprised with Christchurch because it's not normally putting it on for me, so must be you.
Yes. I do remember that rain and a bit of wind in Palmy, so go the turbos. Just thought I'd put that in there. But yeah, funny that we met, kind of online.
Yeah.
You connected up to our Pacific home buyers, and obviously you're a massive I say influencer because I'm new to that space, around kind of life, budgeting, business. It's been actually really awesome to see and cool to have you on here as a result of that. So
thank you. I don't consider myself an influencer. I mean, I'm just somebody who likes to influence people and by sharing information and by being able to influence people in the opposite way to, I think, normal influencing these days, or what it's turned into with social media. So, I'm really excited to be here. I've loved watching your journey. I think seeing all the things that you're achieving, it doesn't just impact, yourself and the platform that you have, but it actually impacts so many other people. And I think a lot of the times we forget that, is that sharing this information and having this talanoa actually helps a whole group of people and a collective of people that don't have access to this resource normally. So well done on you.
Thank you.
Awesome work.
Can we talk a bit about that social media? It's massive, right? It's where a lot of people live their lives. How did that start for you? Sure.
So social media started for me back in 2017. Everyone's on social media, right? And so I think at the time iPhones were coming out, and I was kind of in that era where iPhones were the cool thing. And eventually Instagram came out, so I have my largest platform on Instagram. Cool. I don't really like the other ones. They're quite unfamiliar to me, and Facebook's really Karen-y, so we're not on Facebook. So I started because I had 2 children, and I was sharing my weight loss journey. So that's actually how it all started. I was part of a mum's group, as you do after you have children. You're looking for yourself again, trying to search for who you are. And I found myself in a mum's group looking to, I think, inspire myself through weight loss. And so I lost 25 kilos and was on this real journey to weight loss, I suppose.
That's
once
amazing.
I got to my goals, I realised, I'm able to share my journey because I'm a huge oversharer, which, my husband loves that. And so, started sharing, and I found that other people were inspired by that, and I was like, actually, there's a bigger piece to this. It's not just, I'm not just sharing so that I can inspire myself, because that was what it started off as. Like, I was an accountability thing for me, but it was that I was able to talk to other mums who are in similar situations to me. I had really bad postnatal depression after our second child. It was quite gnarly, and I didn't realise what was happening. And so that's why I did the weight loss journey, because I was hoping that, like, if I go for walks every day, this will help it. Ended up in this space. Fast forward to 2018, and we did a money management course, and that's where my following actually took off. That was kind of where I managed to gain some engagement in an audience. I was sharing our financial journey, and I was sharing the like really nitty gritty stuff. So again, huge oversharer. My husband was like mortified when he came home from work one day and was like, did I see a post today where you told everyone how much debt we have? And I was like, yeah, you did. I did share that publicly. Everybody now knows. All of Palmerston North knows. All of my followers now know. And he was like, you are a crazy woman. But I grew from, I think I might have had like maybe 1,000 followers to the 13,000 I have now. I mean, it's still a small amount, but in New Zealand, like, we're such a small country, like you can have a huge impact with that many people.
That's right.
And so, it grew within a year. Like it just took off. I mean, I had 2 more kids between like then and now, and so I've not had the amount of time to invest in that space. I've got 4 children now, so I've not had enough time to invest in social media, because my kids do come first. That's really important to me. And obviously we've got a business, so crazy world we live in.
It's all go.
It's all go all the time. But when you've got 4 kids, what is a business? Or what is just adding in? What's just adding in one more thing to do? So that's pretty much how my social media journey took off. I'm literally just an oversharer, and with the hope that it impacts somebody else's life so that they can normalise.
Awesome. So there's obviously from that oversharing, a lot of benefits have come out for other people. Yeah,
and I think the idea behind the oversharing is to normalise the fact that you're not alone. Like, because a lot of the time we kind of, there's a huge culture in New Zealand where we ostracise ourselves, we put our heads under the ground, and we're just like, no, this isn't happening to me, I'm not dealing with this weight issue, or I'm not dealing with this, I'm not dealing with postnatal depression, or I'm not I'm not dealing with these things. I'm not in debt and I don't know how to get out of it. I'm not dealing with that. That's not happening. Unknown numbers aren't calling me every 5 minutes. That we pretend that these things aren't happening. But for me, sharing about these things happening to me in real time was hoping that somebody else would be like, oh yeah, that's happening to me too. How are you getting out of that? How are you succeeding? And so for me, that was the impact that I was making, and that's kind of how I live my life. I want to serve, and I want to give as much free and accessible information to others so that they can succeed without ostracizing themselves or pretending like the stuff's not happening, because that's when our people get in trouble. Like that's where the deep darkness happens, right? Is when you feel alone. So that's why I do it.
So true. I mean, it's cool to see it, and after hanging out for an hour or so, I know that it's.
You know my life story? No.
I know that too. But I know it's not put on.
Yeah.
Like it's.
Well, I hope
it's it's authentically you. You're not trying to be this other person on the screen, on social media, and you're the same person. So.
Don't have time for that.
Awesome.
I really don't. I feel like it's taken me a long time to be secure with who I am, and to realise that I'm happy with who I am and I'm secure in this person that I am. And I think that a lot of people can misconstrue that when they see you on social media, because a lot of the time there's a lot of content out there that's like people overshare because they want attention, or they do these things because they want attention. Well, actually, some people just legitimately want success for everybody, and they want to share their journey because they want other people to succeed.
That's right.
And that can be really hard to grasp when you're looking at it from your own perspective, which is projecting like some really not nice stuff. And so, I know, I mean, over the years I've had my fair battle on social media with people being like, oh, like, you're not that person, or like, you just act like that. And I'm like, no, actually I don't. Like, this is actually me. Like, if you met me in real life, like, and I use social media as a space where I can network with people. Cool. That's what the platform is for me. It's for me to be able to share and then network with these people. So currently I'm on a bit of a gymming journey again, because I'm now 2 years since I've had my fourth and final child.
Yeah.
We're not having
No
any
more?
more. The doors are shut.
No sevens team or no sevens rugby team?
Absolutely not. No,
Okay.
we could be the Flying Fijians, but I prefer not to. So I have just rejoined a gym.
Nice.
And I've been sharing about my journey online, about going to the gym, and I've had mums from that gym reach out to me and be like, hey, I'd love to go to the gym with you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all for that. Like, let's go together. Like, for me,
how cool is
it's
that?
the opportunity to connect with people that having these deeper connections is what really builds a community of success. Yes. It's not just about being able to be like, hey, yeah, I liked what you did. Awesome. Great. Awesome. Thumbs up. Like,
true,
no,
true.
It's about that deeper connection as a community, because we are so much stronger together. And, that saying, if you thrive, we all thrive. It is so true, because like the whole idea of like us building capability or success into somebody else, they'll remember that. They won't ever forget that.
That's right.
And they'll bring you on the journey at some point. If they can mention your name in a room, if they can see success for you, then they'll do that. But you have to be genuine and authentic about it the whole way.
Yeah, big
you
time.
can't just give half yourself, you've got to give it all.
Yeah.
And so, my husband also loves that.
Tell us a bit about where you get that oversharing, which is like you from you talk about it in a jokey way, as if it's a bad thing, but it's like one of your superpowers.
Well, yeah, I think this goes back to my upbringing as a child, probably. And I know that I was raised by a single mum. So my parents were together for a lot of my upbringing. I have two younger siblings. And when I got into my high school years, my first year of high school, my parents divorced. And so I spent some of the most crucial years when I was trying to develop myself as a young woman, not having access to somebody to talk to. So, having my mum work 4 jobs to try to keep a roof over our head and try to sustain our family. When you've got like semi-older kids that really need you present at some of those most crucial times.
How old were you?
I was, how old are you in the first year of high school? Maybe like
13,
12, 13. So you're going through like puberty. You're like experiencing like your first like, oh, I like this boy. Like, who am I? And my mum was like, no. And we come from a super religious family. Okay. So it's also like, no, we're not doing that. Like, we're not having this conversation. My mum was really... So my mum's Fijian, cool. And so she's really culturally led, and we have these traditions and we have this culture, and that underpins a lot of the things that we do and how we're brought up and the values of our life.
Nice.
And so talking to a Pasifika mum is like completely different than talking to other mums. Like my friends were having these conversations with their mums about having boyfriends and stuff, and my mum was like, we're not having boyfriends, you just need to get excellent grades. And even when I'd come home with excellent grades, she'd be like, what's the level up from that? You need to get that. I'm like, I don't know how. Like,
how do I get A++?
Yeah, I don't know how. And so I think because as a young woman growing up, I had to suppress a lot of that stuff. Not because my mum didn't want to hear it, but because she just didn't know how to deal with it. She was a migrant, she was working, she was a single mum, like she was doing all this amazing stuff that I didn't see. I now understand as a parent myself, I see it, but I didn't have access to somebody to talk to that I was able to be like, hey, what does this look like? Or when I get my period, how do I deal with this? Or when I am out there talking to boys, how do I navigate this? How do I say no? How do I do all these things? Like, the world is like a really crazy place. And with social media now, our kids have so much more access to these things a lot earlier than what we did. Wow. And so I think having one voice that adds a positive voice to the noise that's out there is a small way. It's a small way to be like, hey, like here's a safe space. Come in, you'll get right factual information. And what was previously a platform where I was sharing just financial and money learnings has now become a space where I'm sharing things. I think I actually just recently changed my blurb on my Instagram to sharing things I wish I knew when I was 12. And like, these are the things that, like politics, money, like health, like all of these things that teachers also who are so under-resourced don't always have the time to talk about. Like there's a plethora of things that we need to be getting out on social media that changes the narrative. Yes. And there's only so many of us that are doing it. Just one more voices. That's why I am probably the way that I am. So cool. Yeah, if you're watching this, Mum, I love you.
the baseline of this is you love your mum. The foundation is where we're starting from. We're just talking around that.
Yeah. I think though, it's not our parents' fault. Like, I mean, especially coming from a migrant Pacifica background. So I was born in Fiji.
Okay.
But my dad was a banker. He met my mum in Fiji.
Wow.
That's where they met, and they got married, and then they had me, and then they came back to New Zealand for a little while. And then my dad was an expat overseas. He worked in the bank for, I don't know, like, I want to say like 35, I don't know, a long time in the banking industry, and that took us all around the South Pacific. So I did primary school in Papua New Guinea. I was in Fiji for like a little bit of my like intermediate years, and then I came back to New Zealand when my parents divorced, because that was stability for my mum. She thought that was the best opportunity for us. That was where we were going to thrive, not in the islands. So she brought us to now our home. So my dad's from Blenheim, but heritage is like Welsh or somewhere European. But we're from Blenheim, so I do love the South Island. I love it down here.
It is cool.
Yeah, it's lovely.
In terms of that moving around, was that good or was it bad? Because some people say you should, when kids are growing, you should stay in one spot, provide stability. Well, and some people say you should move around so they get different experiences and see what the world is actually like.
I suppose it comes down to like, what is that experience when you're moving? So like, I think a lot of people, there's two sides to it, right? So there's the upbringing that I had where, I was brought up, my dad was an expat, so he had a lot of accessible options for us to go into like good schooling, there was good education opportunities. The travel meant that we like went to Aussie every holiday, because Papua New Guinea is actually a really dangerous place. So we would have to go away for holidays so that they
because you need security and
24/7. So we'd have security to school, we'd have security home, security all the time. Like at the gates, we lived in a gated community
with security guards manning the gate.
All the time. And so I think the idea of being brought up in a way where you're experiencing other cultures and the diversity and the beauty of the world, but also seeing how other people live, that's great. It opens your eyes to different cultures. It makes you more aware of what's happening in the world in general. I've backpacked like across the world. I've had some really cool opportunities as a young adult. And so I've seen poverty firsthand, I know what that looks like, and so that's made me a richer human, like what I think is a richer human, in my adult years that I can now pass on to my children. But I know that some people move around out of desperation. It's not an option, like it's a trauma response. And so I suppose it really depends on what that moving around looks like and what the experience is from that. I think for me, it gave me some good understanding and richness in life to like, I know how I can give back. I know how I can serve my community. I know where my community comes from. I know what my migrant journey looks like. And so that serves me as an adult for all the advocacy work I now do. But I think it really depends. So I think there's not one size fits all, but it definitely makes you open to the world in general.
Awesome.
So it was positive for me.
Cool. Awesome. In terms of the advocacy work you do in the Manawatu, what does that look like at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So currently I'm part of a few boards, and I do like a lot of governance in our hometown. I serve on boards in the financial sector, so I'm the chair for Money-Wise Manawatu, which is a local financial mentor organisation. It's a charity. Awesome. We recently established ourselves as a charity. It's been around for 60 plus years, and so I'm the chair of that, which is really awesome because, as you know, like our people are there's so many equity issues. And so being able to have a voice at that table that steers a group of financial mentors so that we're advocating for the minorities that need support and need that opportunity is a real privilege, and it's a real humbling privilege to be part of that. Besides that, I serve in a lot of Pacifica community spaces, so with our local city council and with other local organisations who are trying to build their charities from the ground up. Because the hardest part is that we know that there's equity gaps, and so charities come in and they establish themselves to be able to support the minority communities, but they don't often establish themselves well. They don't have the right networks to establish themselves. There's a lack of awareness around how to set themselves up. And so a lot of the work that I do sits in that space, is really establishing charities and helping communities understand, like, do you need a charity or do you need a business? Like, what is the goal here? Are we trying to build wealth creation? Are we trying to unlock opportunities for a community? Because there's not much money in the charity space. And a lot of people think, oh yeah, like there's money in the charity space. There's not. There's funding, and I mean there's a lot less funding now, but there's opportunities there. But what is the goal of that community group?
Yes.
Like
Yep.
we think we've got to do things for free all the time because we're trying to help people, but we forget that there's a wealth creation aspect of that along the way.
Okay.
So yeah, I work with local city council also.
Cool.
In a Pacifica reference group that I'm the co-chair of, and we advocate in that space to help City Council understand the perspectives of our community. So we represent our community, depending on where, there's about 14 of us on the board on that committee, and so we add our perspectives to that. So I'm often in chambers in our local City Council telling our councillors what they should do for us and how they should allocate budgets and do stuff. So it's not easy work. It's not well-paid work. It's not fun work, but it's needed work. And I think a lot of our people don't understand politics. They don't understand the difference between local and central government. They don't understand governance, and they don't understand how important it is to build wealth. Because a lot of the wealth sits within those systems, so they don't understand that. And so I've been on a real journey the last 3 years trying to understand that, trying to understand how I can have a seat at the table to then give someone else a seat at that table. So a lot of the times I'm not sitting at these tables for long. The idea is that I would sit there to create an opportunity for the next person. Because I'm in my 30s now, and so like for me, I'm young. I'm young by Pacifica standards, but like by worldly standards, I'm like, you know, what are you doing with your life? You're a mom. And I'm like, okay, I suppose. But also at the same time, I want to bring our younger generations through and help them understand their value a lot earlier than I understood it. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell in our local community.
What's the hardest part in the local government space to... what's the biggest challenges you're facing there?
Let's just unlock Pandora's box. I think the biggest challenge for us at the moment in a local sense is that we currently in our local city don't have a Pacifica voice in the council chambers. So we have amazing councillors that sit at that table that have a voice for us, but they don't necessarily have the lived experiences of us. And so it's easy to be in support of us, but if you haven't lived the experiences that we have, it can be often very hard to continue to advocate for that group when you're not often thinking of that perspective. I think also a lot of the time councillors have so many people talking to them about their wants, their needs, what's happening in the community, that you're just one of many. And so I think us having a voice at the table, us having a Pacifica person sitting at that table is integral to the success of our community, because it means that somebody is always there being like, hey, we're still here and we're not going away. And our people, we do, you know, all the work that kind of no one else wants to do, and no one ever wants to say that, but we really do. Like, we're doing the cleaning work, we're RSC workers, we're at the meat works, we're doing we're doing all these jobs that are required for our community to survive, but are underpaid, undervalued. Like, there's so much to it. Okay, that's why I said this is Pandora's box.
Open up. So open up, Pandora.
So I'm grateful for our local city councillors, and I'm grateful for some of the advocates we have in that space. But again, like, it really requires a lot more perspective from somebody that's lived the experience. So I'm hoping at our next elections we have some really awesome people that will run for council. I will not be one of them. So you heard it here first. I'm not running for council. I've done central government election campaigning. I've done local government election campaigning, and not interested.
No. What did you learn most from that experience of campaigning?
I learnt that change happens with the people, not necessarily at the central. I think legislation happens at that table, and we can advocate. I mean, we're seeing it right now with the fast track bill approvals, where not all the voices are going to be heard in. You know, we're not going to get to hear all the submissions for everybody that wanted to talk to them, and I think that's a real, we would be remiss to say that that's fair, but I think that, and I'm not trying to turn this political, but I think we would be...
I think we were all affected by it, so I think we need to talk about it.
And I think that what I've learned is that change actually happens by the people in the community that are making the change happen. And that's where we need to be investing our money into. It's the organisations, it's the people that are running like dance academies. Like we've got a local one in our city, a Pacifica Dance Academy. And like, you know, we've got kids coming in here consistently going into this space who are bringing their parents, who are bringing their siblings. There's an opportunity there to nurture that and create a sense of community with kids that are already invested and committed, family that are committed and invested. But yet we're making them walk into like WINS or MSD. We're making them walk in to be able to get the support that they need. But we've already got them connected somewhere. So for me, it's really magnified the fact that we need to continue to do the work that we're doing in the community, because that's where the outcomes are. That's where the gold happens. We've got a great local MP, and he's Cook Islander, so
cool.
He's got the lived experience and the understanding of, you know, what we're trying to achieve. But again, very stretched, lots of portfolios. Like, these are busy people. Yes. And I think we're living in the community every day. We're seeing this every day. I mean, my kids are growing up in this community. I have to have some type of, you know, feed into this. And so, I've learnt that government is great. It's good to understand it. It's good to understand how it works. You need to understand the mechanics of how that all works. So that you can understand the flow-on effect. But the real magic happens always at an operational level, which is a community level in this sense when we're not talking about business. So
cool. That's amazing. That's amazing that you I suppose, what do I say?
Doing work for free? No.
That's one way to put it, for sure. But doing work that is part of your purpose, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you're doing it for free,
yeah.
but it's true.
Yeah.
It's true to who you are.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty that I see in what you're doing.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I mean, when I did central government campaigning, that was definitely a full-time job. Like, it was a paid job. Yeah. So, like, you know, I am remunerated in some sense.
Yes.
And so it's not all free mahi, but I think a lot of the advocacy you do is every day. Like, it's in everyday connections. It's in talking to people. It's in understanding what everyone's role is and how you're doing that collective impact piece. But yeah, definitely my goal in life and what I've seen my mum do is serve endlessly, serve her community, serve us as children, serve often a community that wasn't always supportive, but because of the equity imbalances that happen and all of us trying to fight to get a little piece of the pie, right? And so I think the way that I can honour that and the way that I can honour the people, the community leaders that have come before me, is to continue to pick up the piece of work, because they weren't paid either. They're not paid to do this advocacy. They weren't paid to fight for our RSE workers, who are the migrant workers that come overseas on short-term contracts. They're not. This is work that just naturally happens because you see a problem and you're like, actually, that's not right. Yeah. But a lot of our people don't want to talk up about these things because we don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah,
we don't want to be
why is that? Why is that?
Well, I don't think I can answer exactly why it is. Yeah. I think we're grateful for what we get. We've been taught to be grateful for what we get because anything is better than nothing. But at some point, we also have to realise that better isn't like, you know, if someone else is being paid $2 for that job and you're being paid 50 cents, like, that's not better. Yes. That we're being used. And our people are so talented. We are so, like, the cultural background that we come from that gives us our authentic, like, identity, it's rooted in song, faith, community, like a village. It's got this huge sense of purpose. Like, right from when we're born, we've got this purpose. We have all these traditions and all this richness to who we are. We're taught to serve. We're taught to give back. We're taught to, you know, I'm always in the kitchen. Like, the first place I walk into when I'm going to an event is the kitchen. Hi, do you need help? What's going on? Like, there's never any job that's too big or too small, right? Somewhere along the way, though, we lost the fact that, yes, we're doing all the serving and we're so magical, but actually we should dim that because we don't want to, like, disrupt anything. Like, we don't want to outshine, or, like, we just want to get what we can get and then be happy with that. But actually I'm like, no, I'm not happy with that. Like, I want more, not for me. I want more for Willie. I want more for the girls that are coming up in the governance space. I want them to be paid for their worth. I want them to know that they can be valued, and that they don't have to water down themselves just to fit into a box. And actually, if you're not valued at that table, go sit at another table where they value you. Like, get up and move on. Yes, there might be some missed opportunities there, but whatever missed opportunities there are going to be so much bigger in another space. You just need to like move, shift, put yourself in these spaces. So yeah, I don't think there's an answer to why people won't break the barriers. I think people are scared. People don't want to rock the boat. People don't want to be the challenger because we're often seen as the bad guy. But I value myself, and so I'm secure in who I am. And so I know that my advocacy is helping people, and I can see it play out in real time because I can see the outcomes and the goals, especially with work we've done in the local government space. I can see how understanding local government and bringing our people on the journey to understand local government is now seeing a play out in us getting some type of budget or priority in our long-term planning for local city council. But that takes time. Yes. And so sometimes you have to look like the bad guy for a little while before you're the good guy. So, yeah. And again, it takes a community and a village to do that stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. Let's talk about MoneyWise.
Oh, yes. Yes.
What kind of services do you guys provide?
So MoneyWise Manawatu is a financial mentoring service. Okay. We are a free service in our community that's been operating for over 60 years now. So I'm a small piece of the puzzle. Yep. I sit in the governance space, but we have an operations team of 8. It's awesome. A manager, an admin, and the rest are financial mentors. Cool. And we do one-to-one budgeting service. Wow. Alongside the one-to-one budgeting service that we offer the community, we also do community. We also do. Oh my gosh, I've forgotten what they're called. Community education. Okay, we do community education. And so the community education piece is kind of like the one-to-one budgeting, but it's more group focused. It's like a taste tester. Yes. And then if they need more or deeper services or deeper understanding around their finances, they can come in and see us. And so in our space, we do budgets, we do financial mentoring from like understanding where they started to where they want to go. So if they want to set some goals around their wealth creation plan, we can do that with them. Our financial mentors can also advocate for them. So like if they've set themselves up with like a personal loan that makes absolutely no sense, we can advocate on their behalf to get them out of some tricky situations, which people don't often realise because they think that, you know, if a debt collection agency calls you up, that's the end all and be all of it. Like I have to pay that debt collection agency. I can't wriggle my way out of this or find another solution. But our financial mentors, it's a free service. We're funded by MSD. Cool. And so, that's one of our many funding pools. Great. And so that's the service we offer the community, and it is well used. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. We have a very small amount of Pasifika that come through that door at the moment.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
It's small. I think it's something like 3% at the moment, but we're wanting to increase that. And so we've been actively working. We've set a new strategic plan, which has been part of me coming onto the board, where we're actively focusing on our Pasifika community. Awesome. So that's one of those doors that you can unlock by having a seat at the table. True. Is being able to say, hey, like why are these minority groups not represented here? Like, what are we doing? What are we not doing? Because these guys are sitting here and they're the communities that really need us. Why are we not in those communities? Like, what are you guys doing? And so it can be some harsh questioning. Yeah, for sure. But it's all for the betterment of the community. Because
the whole community thrives from it.
Yeah. And I mean, my focus is obviously Pasifika because of where I come from and my upbringing, but that doesn't mean I don't think of all the other minority groups that sit within that, and we're constantly trying to include everybody. But sometimes when the stats reflect that these are the bottoms, like you're like, hang on, wait, why are we always at the bottom? Like, what's going on here? Someone
do something.
And then I'm like, oh, well, it's me. Well, I'm doing it. Okay, cool, great. But yeah, awesome. So that's MoneyWise.
Okay, cool. What are the kind of key issues do you think people come through when it comes to finances?
It's changed a lot over the years. Currently, I mean, we all know the cost of living is like extremely out the gate. We see a plethora of people. Previously, we used to see mainly people that were like at the bottom of the cliff, like they were like really in debt or like struggling, and it was reactive. And now we're seeing a lot of like mum and dads come through that are like, hey, I just need help with a budget. Like, I'm really worried. My interest rate's increasing on my mortgage. Okay. How do I navigate this? What do I do? Yeah. Groceries are so expensive. And so we're starting to see a lot more of those types of like demographics coming through. We're also seeing a lot of business owners coming through. Times are really tough, man. Like, business owners are getting hit really, really hard. People are wanting to hold on to their money. We're not wanting to spend it. We're changing our money habits. And so we're seeing a wide range of people coming through the doors at the moment. And there's not enough financial mentors trained to see these people. So
is that why your resources are stretched?
Yeah. So I mean, we've got 8 staff, and 2 of them aren't even financial mentors because we need to have an admin person, and we also need to have a manager. But if you think like the population of Palmerston North, and you've got these like 7 people, like how are they servicing this many people? So there's a real need out there, I think, to have more people on social media talking about financial literacy and education, as long as they're doing it correctly and with the right factual information. We're not trying to, scam people. But there's also a real need for people to look into the sector and potentially become financial mentors. The biggest issue we have is that, why would you be a financial mentor in the charity space that gets paid sweet, or when you could work in a bank, or you could be a financial advisor with a level 5 qualification that's actually offering, wealthy people really sound advice to build their wealth creation, which builds your wealth creation. So it is really a level of service in itself to be a financial mentor. So totally. Shout out to all the financial mentors out there that are doing hard work.
It's amazing.
It is really amazing hard work, and it can be really mentally challenging sometimes because people are coming in with all their problems and needing support. It's that holistic approach, and we're just one piece of it. But our financial mentors, especially at MoneyWise, are just amazing. Cool. Like, no judgment. Like, they want to hear about what your financial priorities are. They lead with that kind of, like, what is it that's important to you? What do you want to keep paying? Is it your tithe? Is it that you go to church and you have to give every Sunday? Like, how do we make that happen within your budget? Because that's what's important to you. So let's see you succeed and continue to thrive in that space. But also, like, what's unaffordable? Like, what can we just not do? Okay. So we've got a really awesome team. We've got a really diverse board, and it's just, I think it's an incredible organisation that's going to go further than the 60 years it already has gone. Yeah. So, it's a cool place to be part of.
Nice. And what's the is it looking to expand if possible, or like what's the hope? It kind of needs to, right?
Yeah.
What's the future look like for?
Well, our board's recently set our strategic plan, and so we're wanting to do a lot more community education focused pieces, which means we can work with larger groups in the community to build financial capability and opportunity, or begin the talanoa at least. But I think what the biggest challenge is the funding. Because funding is what we need to be able to do these roles. And in our space, so MoneyWise is one of the only financial organisations in all of New Zealand that has all our staff are paid. And we believe in remunerating them because it's really important that we value our people and we really value what they're doing, especially when you're in the financial sector. And I know that a lot of other organisations out there are doing this out of volunteer time, and that's really like that's amazing. Like, that is amazing, but there's just not enough. Everyone's really struggling, and so I think the goal for us looking into the future is more community ed, reaching out to more of our community, trying to increase the number of people that we're not seeing represented in the data in our space, but we are seeing represented in the data in like the MSD space. We're talking about people being on benefits, and we're talking about people, the government's constantly talking about this stuff, but they're not represented in our data. So why are they not? How do we capture them? How do we help them? How do we really work with them to unlock their potential to wealth? Because it's there. They've got it.
That's right.
They just need somebody to journey with them in a safe, protective way. Cool. And so, like, in a nutshell, that's basically what we do every day, but that's what we want to do more of. And so I would say that's where we're going.
Sweet. Awesome. Let's talk about your business. So you and your husband run your own business. Is that right?
Well,
tell me a bit about that. Yeah.
So, yes, we've got a business. Well, I often say it's my husband's business because it is his baby. And I mean, it's called Courtney Manu Plastering. Okay. So it is him. And we always laugh about that we named it after him. But my husband started his business back in 2019, I think now. And so it started from a place of he was just unhappy at his workplace. He was the only plasterer there. And so we really wanted to, I just sat with him and I was like, so what does the future look like then? Yeah. We were doing a money management course at the time, and so we were learning about our finances, which we'd never done before. Wow. So we did a free money management course at Te Wānanga or Aotearoa, nice. Which a lot of people had told us, oh my gosh, it's great. Like a lot of older people had told us it was great. Because we had kids so young, people were like, you guys need to sort your stuff out. Like, what are you doing? Like, you've just had kids. You guys are going to end up as those kids who have kids and like, we're not even going to go there. But so we did this course, and in the third week of the course, we were sitting down doing our budgets, and we were like, we could totally afford for one of us to quit our job, and we could live off one salary. And at the time, it was my salary. My husband was working at a distribution centre previous to starting in the construction trade. And then when he got into the construction trade, he really struggled to become a builder, so he fell into plastering. And then the plastering, was magic. He loved it. And then he ended up working for this workplace where he realised he wasn't valued. And so 3 weeks into this money management course, we think, oh my gosh, we could totally take a risk here. Like, we've got some money. Let's take a risk. We'd already bought a house, and so we were in a better financial position than most. We could afford our mortgage. We knew that we could afford groceries. We'd done all the math. And so the fourth week of the course, we go in, and at the beginning of the course, the lecturer goes, does anybody have any wins you want to share this week? And my introverted husband stands up and goes, I quit my job. And everyone was like, that is not a win, bro. And he was like, and they're like, what? And the lecturer was like, I hope you didn't do that because of me. And
the goal of this course was not for you to quit your job.
The goal was to make money here. Why are we quitting jobs?
That's decreasing money.
And so he was like, look, I've quit my job. I've decided that we've done our budget and we've worked out that we could actually take a risk on ourselves. Wow. And we want to invest in ourselves. And so we had $10,000 and we started his business. His business is obviously in the construction trade, but that's why it took a little bit more capital than most businesses do to start up. Because we had to buy like a van. He got like a small as Nissan Vinette that was like $3,000 and was like constantly breaking down, and we bought a whole bunch of secondhand tools for him to start his business, and off he went, and he absolutely has thrived ever since. And my role in his business has been, I suppose, two things. I'm the admin lady, so I do all his finances. I try to make sure everything's in check, and within my own busy schedule, I just make that happen.
I was going to say, how does that fit in?
No, look, we're lucky. We've got a good accountant.
Oh, cool.
And the other side to that is that I do all his kind of mentoring. Like, I'm the one that's always like, you can do this, like, you've got this, like, what do we need to be thinking about when it comes to our employees? How are we building the business? How are we scaling up? Like, are you going to do this forever? Like, do you really want to do this? And I have to attribute.
You're asking those deep questions
all the time. Ever since we first got together, I was like, Tim, is this what you want to do forever? Like, what are we doing next? How are we challenging ourselves? I challenge myself every day, and so I'm kind of that person for him now. And I have to attribute a lot of that back to my dad, because my dad's a businessman, and he's a banker with a lot of business experience. And whilst my mum raised me, I still got to hear and see a lot of that from my dad. And so in hearing and seeing that, I don't know, have taken it on, and now I'm doing that with my husband's business, and he's been 6 years in business now, and in the current climate it's been quieter, but he's not like dead quiet. So I mean, that's success to us, is like keeping the business open, still having our employees, still being able to like pay wages and all that kind of stuff. That's successful.
That's winning.
Right?
I was talking to Hannah McQueen from Enable Me the other week, so she came on as well.
Cool.
And we were just talking about the environment that we're in, and it is like it's a reframing of what winning is, and if you can hold on, you're actually winning in this at this period of time.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more with that. And there was a period at the beginning of the year where I was like, are we going to be able to hold on? Like, are we going to make it? Like, what is success? In talking to other business owners that we see thriving at this time, which is actually just surviving.
Yes.
It's about holding on. It's about making sure that we can hold on until we get to a point where the economy's thriving again. People want to invest in building. Like people are still building, and in our local city, there's still a lot of construction happening.
Oh, great.
It's just not consistent because of the way that things have been going. You know, we've just come off the back of an election. People are still holding on to their money 100%, and so we just need to get through this period, I suppose. So, I'm really proud of my husband. He's an awesome businessman, and being able to bring that out of him and see him succeed makes me happy.
Awesome.
And I allow him to just do that, and I do all the mum. I do all the home, the mum stuff. I do all that stuff, and I just let him thrive.
Awesome.
If he thrives, we all thrive, right?
Yeah, true.
That's why I get to do things for free.
That's so cool that you do that. Oh, you guys are helping each other, right?
Yeah, that's part of marriage. So, like, you know, I suppose when you
it's what you signed up
when
for.
you sign up for it. But yeah, I couldn't have picked a better life partner. Like, I'm really blessed to have him.
That's really
and
cool.
so he sees the value in what I do, and he understands what I love to do, and he a lot of the time drags his feet. He's like, oh, why do we have to do this, or why? But then after, he's like, that was actually really cool. Like, I really love the service aspect of it, and I think having a business unlocks that. It unlocks the opportunity. My mum always used to say to me, you need to get a good job because you just need to be like, you need money, like, and like, you know, the money isn't, it's not just about you being rich, it's actually about what you can do with that money. And now I'm like, wow, okay.
She was right.
She was right. But also she wanted better for me because she could see that, and that's what she was building. That was the legacy she was leaving us with. And so I think I always hold on to that. I'm like, like my legacy isn't necessarily about the wealth that I've got when I leave this earth. It's actually about the legacy I'm leaving behind, not just for my own kids, who are the most important to me, but for all the other people in the community who are like, how do I get to that point? How do I get there? How do I get from, like, I mean, in 2018, I was living paycheck to paycheck, 2 kids, struggling, working in a corporate job 9 to 5, and now my husband and I have a business. I'm like self-employed and able to do what I want with my time.
Let's go.
And he's like thriving in his own business. He's rubbing shoulders with people he never would have thought he would be rubbing shoulders with. We're networking with people online. Like, you know, I could go to cities here and be like, hey, I've got friends in the city. Like, you know, how, like, that is the richness of life. Like, to me, I've made it. I don't need to be a millionaire to know that I've made it. I'd love to be a millionaire, though.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be great. So if we can just...
Yeah, if we can make that happen. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. I think it was Kenyon Clark who actually said, and this has always stuck with me, your network is your net worth. And I truly believe that because, and it's not about having like a network that's rich, it's about having a network that is collaborative, that is always thinking about you in a room that they go into. I said that earlier, like if I'm going into a room and someone's like, hey, like I'm looking for somebody that is like a Pacifica mortgage broker that could potentially come and talk. I'm like, I know the guy. You want him? I know him. Willie Leota. But like that's to me that's my net worth. Cool. It's like if I've got a village around me that's doing that and we're all working together for the same outcomes, I've got a very small circle, then I love that. Like that to me achieved life.
So good.
Yeah. So good. I feel like I'm already there, and that's why I'm always chasing these goals. Yeah. But I feel I'm there
already. You're content, but obviously at the same time with that content, there's always more in a way,
Yeah. I'm always wanting to like build this new business or do this or try this or do this. Like, let's try things because I believe that you can fail time and time again, and it's just learning. Like, you know, I've built that resilience in myself where I know that I can do that. But allowing other people to see that and then being like, I can do that too. I'm like, yes. But it always means that I'm always like trying to chase the next thing. And so my husband's like, you just need to stop chasing and you just need to sit still. And I'm like, I can't do that. It's not happening here. Sorry, buddy.
Funny. What's the hardest part to running a business?
I think the hardest part to running a business is understanding all the pieces of your business and how you have to keep all the plates spinning all the time. Because like when you're a business owner, you're the marketing manager, you're the HR person, you're the finance person, you're doing accounts one day and then the next day you're like putting out fires at work because so-and-so are like arguing, or maybe you've got a client that's not happy. Like in our space, that's what it looks like. And so I think I have, over the years, since quitting my corporate job, invested some time in understanding Sam's trade, so I can do basic plaster, like very basic plastering. So if Sam ever needs an extra person,
I have seen a photo of you on those
stilts.
Yes.
Okay, I can't walk on the stilts.
Okay,
that was I've tried, but I would love to be able to. But yeah, I can do the basics of the trade because to me it was really important to understand the pressures my husband was under and what that looked like and how, physically difficult the job is. Yeah. So that I can understand where he's coming from. I'm very much put myself in the shoes of somebody else. But I think that when you're a business owner, especially in the construction space, or any space that's offering a service that has like outcomes where you're offering a service like face-to-face or like you're doing stuff like that, man, like just trying to spread yourself thin over everything. How do people how are we achieving these things with the 24 hours we've got in a day? I've got people that I know would say, well, you could use 22 hours of that day and sleep the other 2. And I'm like,
I like sleeping.
Yeah, I like sleeping. And so I think the hardest part about being in business is juggling all the hats because you literally are juggling all the hats. And so sometimes the idea of outsourcing different things, understanding what your strengths are, understanding what you can't do, understanding when you need to bring somebody else in to build parts of your business until you're in a space where maybe you can juggle it all is a real tangible solution you can do to try to help yourself. I'm aware though that not everybody has the means and the financial means to be able to do that. So it's about understanding, okay, what are the resources in my local city where there are free spaces where I can network to get that net worth, right?
Yes.
So can I go to a Business After 5 event? Can I go to Manawatu Business, in our local city?
Oh, cool, yeah.
Can I go to these different spaces and network with people and then work out what people are doing? Or are there free seminars happening? Or where can I go to get these resources? Can I go online? There's so much online these days.
There's this thing called Google.
Yeah, I know. And for our Pacifica people, it's like Pacifica Business Trust. You can go to go to these tangible places and you can find the right resources that can help you and unlock your potential. But you need to identify in you that you can't do those things first before you can get to that stage. So I think hard to juggle all the hats, also really hard to establish where you should stretch yourself and when you should outsource something, but you need to do it. You need to spend time doing that to create and build a successful business. The hardest part isn't actually starting your business. The hardest part is maintaining it. 100%. 6 years on, I'm still learning new things all the time, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that that's what that tax thing meant. Is that what that tax code was? Oh, okay. My accountant's I've been telling you that since the beginning. I'm like, oh, yeah.
I've been telling you about provisional tax for a long.
Well, let's not even go into provisional tax.
There's not talking about tax.
That whole, I'm sure you'll do another podcast with that at some point. It is needed though.
Yeah.
Our small businesses need to know.
Yeah, big time, eh? The tax is a tricky one.
Tax is one of those things that if you don't ask the right questions, you don't get the right answers.
Yes.
But how do you know to ask the right questions?
It's a chicken and the egg situation, eh? It's like, oh, you should have told me but I didn't know you didn't know about that. I'm like, you should.
And you don't pay it until the second year, but then you have to make over a certain amount, and it's like the pie, it's like working out how many numbers. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. I think the best thing for me is if you're starting a business, invest in a good accountant who doesn't just give you accountant numbers advice. Yeah. They give you real tangible business advice along the side. So. Making sure that you're investing in the right areas to build the right things, again, outsourcing the right things so that you're building your business successfully, integral, because a lot of businesses fail within the first 2 years because of the fact that they can't sustain, all the obligations that need to come off the bottom line of their operating costs. And, I've seen it time and time again, and it breaks your heart because these are people's dreams, they're their livelihoods, and you're just like, oh, I wish I could have helped more. But again, understanding how to invest and being strategic, having the right people around you, asking questions. Cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go personal finance. Your social media is I've picked up heaps of stuff from your budgeting tips. I'm like, I can use that. Do you guys have a budget?
Yeah, so we actually...
How do you organise that as well?
Oh, my followers are going to watch this and be like, she's so bad. I haven't actually looked at my budget in a while. And funny you asked me this question because it was literally just the other day I said to my husband, we need to sit down and do our budget again. I've been on and off
And
work.
that's the thing, you think you can do it once, but you have to kind of come back to it, eh?
It is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Budgeting is a lifestyle.
Because your life changes.
Yeah, literally. And so I've got a good friend of mine, Alicia. She's the former deputy mayor of our city.
Oh, cool.
And I met her through mutual connections on Instagram.
Great. There we go. Connecting again.
Exactly. And we both sit on the Moneywise board together. So she's my deputy chair now. And so this is one of those things where like when you network and you establish friendships that like you can do all these things together.
Wow.
Like we gym together, we serve on boards together, yesterday we went op shopping together. She's actually about to travel the world. And so I'm she's going to America to travel in an RV for 6 months. But she she's about financial literacy on her Instagram.
Oh, great.
And so she shares how her and her husband do fin chat, and so they sit down once a week every week and go over their budgets. And I've actually been there one time when they've done like a bit of a tell-all about their finances, and her husband's like, what's this expense, what's that expense? Budgeting is about having conversations about your money every day, every week, understanding what did you spend today. It's not about like, what did you spend today? Were you supposed to spend that money? It's about understanding, okay, what did you spend today? Like, how did that work in our budget? Did we overspend today? Do we need to cut it back tomorrow? Are we needing to make more money this week? When you're self-employed, it becomes even more important because when you're self-employed, you're not sure about what money's coming in and how much you might make, especially if you're in a business where there's varying costs coming in and out and your services are varied. It can be really hard to budget, and so I think having constant conversations about budgeting is important. So my husband and I, because I've been working in the political space, I was literally never home over the campaign period of central government, and so we haven't sat down and done a budget in so long. And I was like to him the other day, we need to sit down and do a budget because the math ain't mathin' and I am struggling. And so
the budget math doesn't look right.
No, the budget is, why do I have no money today? And so I think it's really, really important to understand. I think it's one thing to say that I understand my money and I know how to make it work for me. It's another thing to say that I'm managing my money, like I'm actually making it work. So having a budget, reviewing it every week, it seems labor intensive, but do it on a date night. Yes. Like spend a couple of hours every week, spread it out over the week where you're just checking in with what things look like. Yeah. It's so important. Like not overspending on groceries. You can easily get caught up with like going to the going to the supermarket every day. These are tangible ways that we can cut expenses, but you need to be having an open and honest conversation about the money to get to that point. Like you can't just budget, like me and if it was me and my husband, he can't do one budget and I'm doing another budget and we're not talking, he's spending money over here and I'm spending money over there, and like, you know, we need to understand our money personalities. True. What triggers you, what triggers me. Like my husband knows if I'm having a horrible day, I will most likely spend money because I'm trying to fill a void in myself emotionally to try to make myself dopamine hit. I'm trying to spend money to increase the happiness vibes. And I mean, it's not happiness vibes because later in the week I'm like, why do I have no money to pay for my gas? And then my husband's like, well, I can tell you why.
You've used that happiness up over there.
The happiness is gone and now you're walking. And so I think it's about understanding that, but understanding that with the significant other, or if you're on your own, it's about getting real with yourself and understanding that yourself, what are your money habits? What do they look like? How are you budgeting? How are you tracking your expenses? There's a huge, there's a lot to it. I think start with a budget.
Cool.
Track your expenses off your budget.
Is that the foundation for all your stuff?
Absolutely. Well, I think a budget is kind of like the financial. What am I saying? It's the financial map to your success, right? Yeah, cool. Because you're plugging in all the facts and you're getting a real-time understanding of, oh, I'm actually in deficit, like I'm actually not making any money, I need to pick up another job, I need to cut my expenses here, I need to do something. You're able to do tangible things with that. When you have a mind, what I call a brain budget, when you are doing all the numbers up here and you're like, I've got this much, okay, I could spend $2. Well, I mean, you don't actually know that that's the case because you may have missed an expense because you're not writing it down. You can't see it visually. Yeah. So a budget is always the place to start. Now, the biggest thing about starting with a budget is that people get it can be either a really successful start to the journey, or you can look at it and be like, why didn't I do this earlier, and how am I going to get ahead, and whoa. But it's about using that as the catalyst to the success. It's about going, okay, I'm here now, there's nothing I can do about it. What can I do tangibly to make that happen? And then you would track your expenses every week. So, cool. I've set this budget, I'm following this budget, this is what I said I'm going to do. Okay. Make sure it's reasonable. Don't say I'm going to save $5,000 week one, because you're not going to do that unless you're making heaps and heaps of money. Make it achievable, and then move into tracking your expenses and then understanding, okay, these are my money habits. Great. This is what I'm overspending in. I'm buying lunch every day. I should start making lunch. I can fit that into my grocery budget. I can cut that expense. And then once you've done that, everything else kind of falls into place. You start to unlock this potential that you didn't have before. Oh, now I've got savings. Okay, I can keep tracking along. Now I can go on a holiday. Now I can buy that expensive pair of shoes that I always wanted. Now I can, now you can do all these things that you weren't doing before, right? But it starts with budget.
Yeah. It's crazy how you think it's a restriction, but the planning for it actually provides so much freedom for you, eh? Mm-hmm.
And people see it as she's living frugally, she's shopping at op shops, and she has to live by budget. Can they not afford to? Well, no, actually, I can afford it, but I can afford extras because I'm budgeting. And so for a long time when I was sharing on social media that I was budgeting, I was doing a $100 shop. You can't do that now because groceries are so expensive. Yeah. But I was feeding our family of, I think, 4 at the time, and so we had 2 children. We had 1 child in nappies and on formula, and we were buying all our groceries for $100 a week. I'd take $100 cash to the supermarket. I'd share exactly how much I spent that week. I'd share the groceries I bought. I'd share all the meals that I'd make from those groceries. No way. And I'd encourage people. I'd be like, hey, you can do this. If I can do this, any of you can do it. And I was working full time. So I was working in corporate insurance. I was a team leader of a team of, there was about 15 in my team. And I was still doing social media at the time. But I wanted people to see, you can invest in yourself. There's no excuse. You can invest in this stuff. This is worth it. And then from there, I was like, see, look, now these are the tangible results. I'm now saving this money to be able to buy these things. But then because I was sharing on social media, I'd feel so guilty because I'd be like, people know I'm living on a budget now. I can't spend this money. What am I doing with this money? But the reality is that was the point of the exercise, right? Is that you want to save money so that you can afford to go on holidays, so that you can afford to do all these things. But I think it's getting out of your head that, you can't be successful. You can't share your success because you're trying to share all the oversharing things to get people there. So it's been a real journey. Yeah, I'm really content with life now, so I've got no problem sharing everything. Yeah, nice. Nice. As you know.
What do you like spending money on?
So, what do I like spending money on? My biggest money, the thing that I like to invest my money into is actually holidays because I've got kids. Yeah. So I like to spend money on memories. Cool. It's really big for me that we go home to Fiji once or twice every 2 years, and that's a cultural thing, but it's also it's who I am. So my thing is holidays. My husband's thing is cars. He loves it. He loves a car. I'm like, that's a really expensive, unnecessary thing that depreciates all the time. Can we invest in something else? Because to me, the memories are, I don't know. I somehow value that and he doesn't. So, that's what I spend my money on. But we've invested over time. We've got a house. Nice. And we were able to buy.
I was going to say, what do you guys invest in?
Yeah, and we were able to buy a rental property, which is huge for my husband and I because
that's amazing.
How did we get here? And investing in housing is one of those things where you literally have to hold on for dear life because you're like, I really want this property to increase in value. But then in my advocacy hat, I'm like, but also I really want housing to be more affordable. So I don't want that. But I'm like, hang on, but I'm investing in this space. So profit over people, like, so that's an everyday struggle.
Yes.
So yeah,
no, I know so many investors who face that challenge. They're like, I want it to go up, but I also want it to go down because I want housing to be affordable. How does this work?
Yeah,
How does it work?
It's not. Oh, don't ask me. You're the mortgage broker.
I know how the numbers work for it. I don't know how the moral compass works for it.
I think that for us, how the moral compass works is that, especially with our rental, and we've only got one, with our rental, it's about investing in the value of the person that's there. So over the Christmas period, like last year, we gave them a couple weeks off rent so that they could get through the Christmas period. Like, that was really important to us.
That's mean.
We haven't increased the rent on the property in a couple of years, and we've been in deficit by, I think, $1,500 a year on this property, in terms of, like, we've had to invest $1,500 ourselves into the overheads around insurance and rates and those extra costs, because the rent hasn't covered all the expenses that come with owning a home. But for us, that's an investment we're willing to take a risk on, because we're hoping that at some point that pays off and that the house, increases in value, and you know the
totally.
And so I think for us, that's what the moral compass looks like. If the tenant has an issue with the house, we're there fixing it. Like, we value this, we value the people in this house, and we value the house.
Awesome.
And so, like, the house, when we bought the house off a friend who was actually really, really good to us. He's a property developer in our local city who I think he saw the ability in us to build our own wealth creation. So he invested in us by giving this house at a really good price. Wow. He's an awesome human being. And so
Can I get his number? No. I'm joking.
Yeah, after this. If he sees this, he's going to be like, Courtney Manu. And so we bought the house, and we had to turn it over in like 6 weeks. Oh, wow. So I was 4 months pregnant with our 4th child. We had 3 kids already. And Sam and I dedicated like 5 weeks to fully renovating this house. It had like mold in every corner of it. It had like 5 years of wallpaper, 50 years of like wallpaper on it. It was an old kainga order house. Okay. What did they used to call them? State home. It was an old state home. And so we had to fully renovate it. And so I was 4 months pregnant, and I hid this pregnancy from the Instagram. Wow, that's showing my age. From Instagram.
The book face.
Yeah, from the book face. From the TikToker. And so I fully renovated this with Sam. Sam would go to work during the day. I would renovate the house during the day while he was at work, and I'd strip all the wallpaper and do as much as I could. And then after work, he would come and help me renovate the house after work, while our mum helped us with our kids, or our kids would come and sit in the house and just be on their phones and tablets and run around. So we turned it over in about 6 weeks in the end. We fully renovated.
That's insane.
Renovated
That's
the whole
insane.
inside of the house. Yeah.
With kids.
Yeah, with kids. And so, and I had...
when you know that little bit where you say with kids, that is like a massive amount of effort, like, just like, with kids.
Yeah. Well, see, to me, it's just normal though. Like, I'm like, it's chaotic already. Like, we're just adding more chaos to the, just add more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
If you can do 4 kids, you can do anything. People say, actually, on that note, people say if you have 3 kids, that what's one more? Don't do one more. People out there, 3 kids is a lot. Blessed to have 4. I'm so blessed to have 4.
Love them.
But
Love them
people
more.
are lying when they tell you that. What's one more? I'm like, you didn't tell me. This kid would try to kill me. That was renovating a house has probably been the most interesting journey we've been on, because
we have done that too.
Yeah, there's one thing to invest in it financially, but it's a whole other thing to invest your time, your energy.
Actually, when I say we, I mean my wife. Just disclaimer, she'll be watching. She'll be like, you said we when it was just me. I was like, yeah. I looked after the kids and I ran the numbers.
That took him a while to actually admit it was you too. Just so no.
Yeah, I lifted a few. Okay, I better jump in. Yeah, but
it's hard to do though. So good on her. Like, I mean, it's really hard to invest, especially when you're like mum and dad investors. We're not huge property developers. We're not developing multi complexes and medium density housing with like plans and architects. We're literally going into a home and going, do you think we need to renovate this? Do you think that needs to be redone? And so I think, my husband and I, we took a chance on ourselves and we thought, actually, come on, let's give this a go. If the investment doesn't work, we'll sell the house. And that's the worst that can happen.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
I think when you're comfortable in yourself, there's no issue with you being like, actually, that didn't work. Let's just try something else. There's no issue in that. I think a lot of the time people are like, oh, shame, they had to sell their business, or shame, they had to sell their house. That's part of life.
It's part of life, isn't it?
It's actually part of learning. And actually our job when that happens is to come in and go, hey, are you all right? Like, how do you feel about that? I've had a recent...
Do you need some help, or do you need
some
support?
love? Do you need me to cook you a meal? Do you want to come over and have like a drink? Like, is everything going okay? And I think you'll find like 8 times out of 10, they'll be like, actually, no, I'm okay. Like, I'm fine. I'm just processing this. Or actually, we did it because we made like shit tons of money. So like, hey, why would you not? But I think a lot of us don't ask the questions. We just judge and we're like, and we need to change that culture. Like, we need to be more supportive of people failing, people making mistakes, and then building themselves back up to be better than what they were before, because that's what they're going to do. When you make mistakes, or you close something down, or something doesn't work in your favor, you're going to come back stronger. Yep. You've learned, you're going to come back harder and faster, and you're not going to let that happen again. You're going to be like, actually, last time it was my provisional tax, this time it's not going to be my provisional tax. Like, you learn things, but you need to have good people around you. I've had a conversation with a friend recently. They want to work out whether they should relocate overseas or whether they should stay. And what was holding them back was, well, we can buy a house, so we should stay because that's what success looks like. And I'm like, is that really what success looks like? Like, is that what you think? So often in our society, we're like, success looks like I go through school, I go to uni, I get a good degree, I get a great job. After that, maybe I buy a house, and then I find this amazing woman and I marry her, and then she's a stay-at-home mum and we have kids, and then we're married for like 65 years and hallelujah, praise the Lord, I'm working until retirement, goodbye. That's not the case for everybody.
No.
Like, some people just want to rent because it's actually sometimes cheaper than having a mortgage and committing to a mortgage, because maybe they want to travel, and maybe they want to work overseas, and maybe they want to do all these other things. Success looks so different for everybody, but we put everybody in this box of how they have to achieve things, and actually the way they have to achieve things, and the time you have to achieve things. Stop doing that. Like, just let success be whatever you want it to be. And let's celebrate that at whatever milestone that is. So good. And so, I mean, I'm hoping that my friend decides what success looks like for her and her family, and then makes a decision. And I told her, I'll support you, whatever that looks like. Like, you don't have to buy a house. Ugh, who cares? Just because everyone's bought a house doesn't mean you have to.
That's right.
Who said? Like, who made that rule? And if anyone knows, I want to know.
Yeah, tell me that, person.
He's fired.
That's so cool. So cool. I want to finish on this question. There's riches and wealth. Riches kind of like money and stuff like that. What does wealth look like to you?
Are you meaning in like the financial sense, like the tangible, or is this like open to me?
It's open, yeah.
Okay. I think there's 2 pieces to it for me. One of it is wealth looks like to me having a network of people that I'm connected to that love me for me and all the craziness that I am, because I mean, as you can see, I go on tangents, I'm like doing all these things, I'm like across all these spaces. And so it's about having a group of people around me who love me for me, want to see me succeed, and I want to see them succeed. And it's about building that network of people where we're all making a collaborative effort to support and continue to build up how we impact and serve in our community. That is true richness and wealth to me. But the other side to it is that real tangible aspect of what wealth looks like in an everyday sense to people. When you think about wealth, you think about how you're investing, what are you setting yourself up for. I think the real sense of wealth for me would be like, if I could retire like before the age of 65, then amazing, I've made it. Like, that's how I know that I will have made it. My goal has always been to retire by the time my husband and I are 40. Like, I would love for us both to retire. I'd love for us to both move home and take our kids back to Fiji and just live there and live like a more simpler life that allows my kids to be more in touch with their culture and change their perspective on wealth, because what my kids have seen is real hustle culture, like us hustling, us working, us being away. Like today my kids are like, oh, you're going to Christchurch, Mum, what time will you be back? And I'm like, I've cooked dinner, don't worry, dinner's on the bench, like Nan's going to pick you up. When I get home, I'll come straight home and I'll pick you up from Nan's and then I'll bring you home, like, you know, that's what my kids see. Yeah. But I want different for my kids in terms of that wealth. I want them to have tangible wealth from me so that they can live a more explorative life that unlocks, I don't know what kind of, whatever their potential and success looks like. I don't want them to have to fit into a box. Yes. And so if by the time I'm like 50 and my kids are, I don't know what, 30, and if they are living the best version of themselves, no matter what industry they're in, no matter what sector they're in, if they're living and able to sustain themselves and they are feeling confident and secure in themselves, boom, I've made it. Like, that is it for me. Yeah, I can leave them with tangible assets and I can set them up with share portfolios. Like, you know, I can invest for them before they get to that point. I can have a savings account for them. Absolutely. People can do that. That's a tangible thing to do. But if you're leaving them with more than that, with security, with opportunities, with a network of people that they can tap into, if you're giving them that, there is so much more potential than just the wealth. And that's the part that we often forget,
Yeah.
Because we think wealth is money.
Yes.
It is, but it also isn't.
Yeah.
So it's so much more than that. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
That is so cool. Thank you.